This is Outnumbered. I'm Andrea Tanteros, and here with us today, Harris Faulkner, Sandra Smith, host of Kennedy on our sister network, Fox Business's Kennedy. And today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, you know him. You love to read his best-selling books, the best-selling author of Edge of Your Seat thrillers, Mr. Brad Thor. His 15th book, Code of Conduct, which he launched here, by the way, is out now. And we remind Brad, you are outnumbered, Mr. Thor.
And happy to be so.
So how's the book going?
It's been great. It's been great. Been the best launch we've ever had, and with the most critical acclaim. People have said it's their favorite thriller of mine ever. So it's been terrific.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you,
I was at the airport, Chicago O'Hare, a few days ago. The book looks bigger. Are they making it bigger?
I think it's all the buzz.
Huge.
I think it's all the buzz.
Right in the
It just
middle of the
appears
stores.
bigger.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to have you.
Stop.
Good to be
We
here.
have our own code of conduct here. Harris will give you the rules later. It's only like 2. So really anything goes.
It's really fun.
All right. Well, all eyes on Donald Trump, who really doesn't have a code of conduct. Just one day before the second Republican primary debate, the GOP frontrunner will give a major national security address aboard the battleship USS Iowa in California later today. This less than 24 hours after the billionaire businessman drew a massive crowd of at least 15,000 people at a Texas-sized rally. Where else? Dallas. Trump raising the roof at American Airlines Arena as he blasted President Obama and his GOP rivals in a fiery 90-minute speech. Now, some women could even be seen brought to tears. A prompter not necessary, especially on the hot-button issue of immigration. Watch.
We have to build a wall, folks. We have to build a wall. And a wall works. All you have to do is go to Israel, say, how's your wall working? Walls work. And I want people to come into the country, but I want them to be legal. I want them to go through the process. I want them to come in. I want to have a big, beautiful door. But they have to be legal. They have to be. We have to end this sanctuary cities crap fast. Fast.
But new polling could spell a little bit of trouble for Trump. A new Washington Post ABC News poll finding that 56% of registered voters don't consider him to be qualified for president, with Democrats and independents viewing him the most negatively. Still, this New York Times CBS News poll has Trump leading with a 27% lead, up from 24 before the first Fox News debate in early August, and a big jump for Dr. Ben Carson, now with 23%, up from 6% in early August. All right, so walls and doors, spoken like a true builder. But one thing is true. I mean, his poll numbers are still very, very high, Brad. Did you ever think they would be this high and maintain this lead?
No. In fact, I talked a lot about where Giuliani was the same time in a previous primary, but Giuliani wasn't packing stadiums the way the way Trump has been in Texas and Alabama. And in that poll that you cited about Democrats and independents, that poll means absolutely nothing and doesn't matter right now. Donald Trump is not running to woo Democrats and independents. He's wooing Republicans. And you will see that if Trump gets the nomination for the Republican Party, and by the way, I've been on record as not being a big Trump fan, but as soon as Trump gets that nomination, if he does, he will then begin to woo the Democrats and independents, and you will find his approval numbers going up in those groups.
What about
I guarantee it.
states?
Well, you know, open primary states are very interesting. You do have the ability for people to come in and vote against him. But he's 30% across the board in most of these states, if not higher. So you've got people divided up amongst the other candidates. I don't see how Trump loses at this point. I really don't. He's bulletproof. He steps on landmines all the time, and nothing happens to this guy.
Yeah, I mean, Harris, I joke that he's Teflon Don. And looking at some of these polls, I mean, the one that I cited, 54% say that he's not qualified. Not only does he not care what Democrats and independents think at this present moment, I'm not so certain that's what people are interested in. It's like the attack he's not conservative enough. People don't care about that. There's something about the fact that his name is not Bush and it's not Clinton and he's an outsider.
You know, after watching last night, and it was so far the longest speech by any of the GOP presidential candidates to date in this particular race for 2016, and people stuck. They stuck, they cried, they wept, they laughed. They had every emotion in that audience. They were hanging on every word. It was really interesting to watch the faces of the crowd along with his. I start to question the Republican Party right now. He is the front runner. Yet I hear some Republicans complaining about he's soaking up all the airtime. I've heard you say, well, why should anybody complain about that? That's what you've been crying for years, that Republicans would get more spotlight. So when is the RNC? When is Reince Priebus? When are some of the more establishment people within the GOP going to get behind Donald Trump? I'm really curious. You got a guy who's holding a third almost of polling right now in popularity. Yet I don't see that. So what is it going to take? Because if they are a party of the people, and he's got all the people, I'm curious.
But let me just challenge this for a second. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I have to say that because people always think it's my opinion. But I have to challenge the notion that he came out and I think he said, quote, the middle class has been decimated. Okay, and he decided to address taxes. I'm going to lower taxes, right? He's going to address the corporate tax rate. Business is a mess in this country. He wants to address this. I'm going to release my tax plan in a few weeks. If it's so great, why isn't he releasing it now? Why doesn't he tell us exactly what he's going to do?
Because he doesn't need to.
Yeah, he doesn't have to.
He doesn't need to. And you know what he knows better than anyone else? These 38, 72, 64-point plans that Republicans in the establishment have been rolling out for decades, from Mitt Romney to Jeb Bush last week. People don't care. They put people to sleep. He's winning now, Sandra.
Or is that just part of the tactic? I'm going to cure all your problems. I'm going to put H&R out of business, H&R Block out of business, as he said repeatedly.
But if he's winning Kennedy on immigration, why would he change the subject? He's winning on an issue that's been resonating, that nobody's talking about, that's dominating the headlines. I wouldn't have him change the subject at all.
Well, I wouldn't change the subject to things that he's weak on, like foreign policy, like terrorism. You know, Hugh Hewitt, he got him in a game of gotcha. Hugh Hewitt is the moderator, co-moderator tomorrow night. We're going to see if he does the exact same thing. But I agree. You know, it's going to come down to jobs for people, and he may have close to 30%, but in the CBS New York Times poll, he has 27%. Ben Carson is just a few points behind him. Ben Carson is what, 23, 24%? And this is a guy who was considered to not have a phenomenal debate performance last time, but whatever he did, it worked. Whatever Ben Carson is doing with those audiences, it's working, because you see, you know, Jeb Bush, some polls he's 7%, others he's around 6%. He's in the single digits. Scott Walker is at 2%. These people have completely...
And has been going back.
Tomorrow night's the night. If somebody doesn't take a piece out of Trump tomorrow night, it is over. I don't care for the rest of the debates. Tomorrow night's make or break, and you'll see the establishment fall in behind him Thursday morning.
Speaking of which, can we move on real fast? We're going to get to that debate. I'll come right to you, Harris. Donald Trump will take the stage for the second Republican debate, and plenty of folks will be waiting to see if there's a showdown between him and Carly Fiorina. Front and center, of course, that face gate. So will Donald continue to sort of diffuse his insults of Carly's looks as he did last night in Dallas?
I like Carly, and I like Ben, and I like many of the people that I'm running against. I mean, many of these people are terrific people. But nobody's going to be able to do the job that I'm going to do.
So, should Fiorina confront him face first on the insult? And what does Trump have to do to avoid coming off like a sexist bully? Or does it even matter? Because to this point, he's continued to climb in the polls, as we said, no matter what he says. And his take last night on potential attacks from his debate rivals was basically whatever.
You know what? I laugh, but only jokingly. Because there's a part of me that would love to dial up my inner Donald Trump every now and then, especially when my kids aren't listening. But I will say this. He had better respect Carly Fiorina, because in my estimation, based on where she is in the polling now and how she's been able to turn his comments to her benefit, much like some of the other candidates have not been able to do, she really is the comer on that stage tomorrow. You know, I rewatched, because y'all know how I love C-SPAN, and they replayed it this morning, her speech in New Hampshire over the weekend on Saturday at the Stretch Kennedy dinner at Senator Humphrey's house, I think. And you know what? She doesn't just talk the economy, Sandra. She explains Dodd-Frank. She pulls people along with her. She gets to those core quintessential kitchen table issues and walks us through them. That's going to be tough competition for Donald Trump. It's like a business titan and a business titan. I think it's going to be delicious.
She's going to wait for him to stumble, absolutely, in the debate, and she may have the key to unlocking the Trump riddle. And you know who's going to be watching that is Hillary Clinton. You know, she's going to be watching his dynamic with Carly Fiorina, and I think that is going to be the most important dynamic at the debate. How are he and Carly Fiorina? Because their strengths and weaknesses are opposite of one another, regardless of gender. The other thing I'm going to be looking for, of course, is Chris Christie versus Rand Paul, round 2. Jake Tapper is trying to drum up drama, but I think those two. I think those two.
And Brad, it seems like the ones to watch are the outsiders, so the Carleys, the Ben Carsons, the Trump, and it goes back to that poll. Attributes only matter if they're the attributes that the voters care about. So the fact that these three don't have political experience, so to speak, doesn't matter. No one cares.
We joked around last time about sweet meteor of death, SMOD, coming to give the Republicans at least a candidate they could get behind. I think Trump is SMOD, that sweet meteor of death that's just going to burn it all to the ground. Tomorrow night, though, I think it's going to be a real Trump-Fiorina matchup, and I love Carly. I think she's brilliant, handles herself unbelievably well. That last debate where she was in the happy hour was fantastic, did a great job. I think the big surprise tomorrow night is you are going to see some zingers against Trump from Marco Rubio that are going to really really surprise people.
On illegal immigration, you're thinking?
On multiple fronts. Rubio's a smart guy and a good debater.
I think everybody's setting this up to be a Trump-Fiorina thing, and I think everybody at this point sees Fiorina as somebody who can handle herself. I don't know that anybody's treating her special. She's the woman on the stage.
No.
And
well, he's already insulted her. Is he going to
differently.
insult her again? Is he going to use some of those comments? Is he going to say them to that
She said
face?
he didn't insult her.
She's the only person.
She said, I don't even need an apology from the guy.
I think she's going to wait for him to stumble. She's going to wait for him to stumble like she did on Hugh Hewitt's radio show. And she's going to come in and back cleanup. And she's going to come in and
explain. That's made him backtrack. There has not been one single person that has gotten Trump to backtrack off a bad statement. She is, because he said, well, I only said it as an entertainer. And I put out a tweet and I said, you're an entertainer or you're a candidate for president of the United States. Make up your mind, pick one, stick with it. So my biggest beef with him is the guy's so thin-skinned and so insecure that he can't let stuff go, whether it's Meghan McCain,
I'm
Megyn
not
Kelly.
sure. I actually don't think he's insecure. I think he's overconfident, and that's what
that
people
comes
like.
from insecurity,
and
though.
I agree with Brad.
That anybody cares, Harris, what he says. It does. You know why? Because they don't care about Carly Fiorina's face. They care about the 11 million illegals, and so these personal back and forths, they get Carly in the headlines.
On those issues that
but they
people
don't hurt
say
him.
they care about. I do want to bring up one person though, and it is your dark horse because it's the person you always talk about, John
Gilmore
Kasich of Ohio.
He's got only 14 more to go now that Perry's out.
John Kasich of Ohio, and how he handled Donald Trump on the last debate stage with a little bit of sugar and then moved on to his own topics. He could do well tomorrow night, too. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that he's a dark horse. I've said it before. I think he has incredible debating skills. I think he's very tough, and he has a Trump-esque style, but he's also got that experience. Now, he's from Ohio, an important state, but he's not perceived, even though he was in Washington, as a beltway guy. I mean, he's worn a lot of different hats. He was a TV host, which is why I think he also is very telegenic. So I'm going to be watching Kasich tomorrow.
And his numbers have come up. You're absolutely right. As Walker and Bush have plummeted, and he's been bolstered.
Also, I'm going to be watching Walker and Rubio because I think, to your point, they've got to do something big, Brad. I mean, they are really struggling, those two, and especially Jeb as well.
Oh, yeah, big time.
All right. And be sure to tune in to the best part of tomorrow night, the post-debate analysis. And, of course, the very best starts at 11 p.m. Eastern, right here with Mr. Bill O'Reilly. I'll be joining Bill. And then it's Megyn Kelly at midnight. And then stay up late with Sean Hannity at 1 a.m. I promise you, it will be worth it. The best analysis in the business right here on Fox News Channel. And North Korea once again threatening the United States. This as the rogue nation claims it's resuming production of fuel needed to make more nuclear weapons. So just how serious a threat is this, and is it all because of Iran? And North Korea fallen off the White House's radar, all with the attention surrounding that Iran deal that so many people are opposed to. Plus, a high school football coach under investigation, not for mistreating his players or cheating, but for praying after games. And right after the show, catch more from the couch. This is where the fun really starts. Join us for Outnumbered. Log on to Outnumbered Overtime, foxnews.com/OT. Click that OT tab, and we'll talk about Brad's books. You can ask him anything you want. And remember, no code of conduct on Overtime.